My wife said, "Cook for yourself," after my 14-hour shift. 3 years later, I finally took back my life, stopped being ignored, and she was shocked. Before we move on, hit that subscribe button and grab a snack. This story is about to get intense. My wife said, "You're an adult. Cook for yourself." Those words hit me harder than anything in years. My name is David. I'm 32, and I work as a field technician fixing industrial machinery, warehouses, factories, construction sites. Long, brutal shifts, 12 to 14 hours, often in extreme heat, crawling under machines, hands cut and scraped. I'm married to Linda, 29, who has 2 kids from her previous marriage, Ryan, 11, and Sophie, 8. 5 years ago, dating her felt perfect. Weekends were full of cooking together, backyard steaks, and laughter. After we married 3 years ago, she quit her office job to freelance as a graphic designer, so she could be home more with the kids. I supported that choice completely. But slowly, things changed. I ended up covering almost all the bills: mortgage, car, groceries, utilities, school fees, sports. I told myself it was temporary. I didn't complain because I thought that's what love meant, carrying the weight when your partner needed it. Then came the small things. Dinner wasn't ready. The house wasn't messy, but it wasn't cared for like before. Linda spent hours on her laptop, sometimes scrolling social media while the kids watched TV. She seemed indifferent unless I was paying bills. That Thursday in July broke me. I was called to a factory at 6 a.m. Heat of 95°, machinery completely down. Crawling under panels, replacing motors, troubleshooting for hours. I didn't eat anything except a protein bar at noon. By 8 p.m. I was exhausted, hands greasy and sore. I drove home thinking about a shower and a proper meal. I arrived after 9 p.m. The house was quiet. The kids were in their rooms. Linda was on the couch with her laptop. I opened the fridge hoping for leftovers. Nothing. Sandwich stuff, a questionable half pizza, some yogurt. I asked about dinner. "We ate at 6, she said. I explained I worked 14 hours and wanted something more than sandwich supplies. She looked at me with annoyance, not sympathy. "You're an adult," she said. "Cook for yourself." I'm not running a restaurant. I just stood there, waiting for her to soften, waiting for her to realize how harsh that sounded. She didn't. I went back to the kitchen and made a peanut butter sandwich, standing there like a kid. Every bite made something inside me crack. I thought about my parents. My dad worked long, hard hours. Mom always had dinner ready. Not out of obligation, but out of love. That's what I thought I had with Linda. But standing there, I realized I had been fooling myself. Was I just a paycheck? Was I invisible unless I provided money? That night, lying in bed beside her, the phrase echoed again. "You're an adult. Cook for yourself." I realized she was right about one thing. I was an adult. And maybe it was time I started acting like one, taking care of myself because clearly nobody else would. The next morning, I woke up with a strange clarity. I wouldn't argue with Linda, beg for her attention, or expect her to suddenly care. I decided to take her advice seriously, take care of myself. That Friday, I stopped at the grocery store on my way home from work. I bought things just for me: steaks, fresh vegetables, expensive coffee I always skipped, craft beer I'd been wanting to try. When I got home around 7 p.m., Linda and the kids had already eaten. I didn't ask about their dinner. I didn't mention mine. I went straight to the kitchen and cooked for myself. I seasoned a thick ribeye, got the cast iron pan smoking hot, and cooked it medium rare with a perfect crust. I roasted asparagus with garlic and baked a potato loaded with butter and cheese. The smell drew Ryan to the kitchen. "That smells really good. What are you making?" he asked. I smiled. "Just dinner for me," I said casually. Linda appeared in the doorway a minute later. She watched silently, a mix of surprise and something else. Curiosity, maybe discomfort. "You made steak?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. I was hungry after work. She seemed to expect me to offer her some. I didn't. I took my plate to the small office room I'd converted into my space and ate alone. I could hear her return to the living room without a word. Saturday morning, I made a full breakfast for myself. Scrambled eggs with cheese, bacon, toast, fresh orange juice. Linda came into the kitchen in her pajamas. "You made breakfast?" she asked. "For myself," I said, taking a bite. "There's eggs and stuff in the fridge if you want some." Her face went through shock, anger, and finally, forced neutrality. That was when I knew this wasn't just about food. This was about reclaiming my life. Over the next few days, I started establishing boundaries. Laundry, my clothes only. Family activities, participation by choice, not automatic. Linda tried to plan a movie night for the kids without consulting me. I didn't complain. I went out with my friend Ethan, grabbing dinner and watching the game. It was the first evening in months where I didn't think about the house or stress over whether Linda cared. Monday came. Same pattern. Dinner for me, alone. Tuesday, Linda tried to cook for everyone, including me, but it felt forced. Wednesday, I stayed focused on my routines. Thursday, she asked me to pick up Ryan from soccer practice. I had scheduled a dentist appointment I'd been putting off. She had to rearrange her plans, frustrated. I realized the truth. I wasn't part of a team anymore. I was just the money guy, a provider, a man expected to show up and fund everyone else's life. For the first time, I started seeing things clearly. I wasn't invisible because of bad luck. I had trained the dynamic myself by accepting less and less. And now, I was done. Friday night, curiosity got the better of me. I finally looked closely at our joint account. My stomach sank. Over the past 6 months, I noticed a pattern. Hair salon appointments, expensive clothes, subscription boxes, frequent takeout orders. Almost all paid from the account I funded entirely. Linda's freelance income went into a separate account I couldn't access. Nothing, absolutely nothing, had been spent on me unless I bought it myself. Not a gift, not a treat, not even my favorite snacks. I realized I had been funding someone else's comfortable lifestyle while living like a broke college student. The joint account had become my account, spent by everyone else. That night, I decided to take action. Saturday morning, I went to the bank and opened my own checking account. From now on, only enough money to cover my fair share of household bills, mortgage, utilities, groceries would go into the joint account. The rest of my paycheck would stay in my personal account, strictly for me. When Linda asked why I'd been at the bank so long, I said I was researching investment options. Technically true, but really, I was investing in my independence. That weekend, I also spent time differently with the kids. Ryan came into the garage while I organized my tools. He handed me wrenches and asked questions about how different things worked. For the first time in weeks, I had a genuine conversation with someone in the house. Sophie showed me a drawing she had made of our family. In it, I was standing slightly apart. Not intentionally, just how an 8-year-old naturally sees things. I taped it to my toolbox and felt a heavy sadness. Even the kids could see I didn't really belong anymore. Every interaction with Linda had become transactional. Every day was just me showing up to fund a life I wasn't included in. Requests disguised as casual questions, every favor, every demand, each day. All of it had become about money and chores. She didn't value me beyond my ability to provide. The worst part? I had allowed this. I had accepted small neglects, hoping for appreciation that never came. I realized I had been training her to treat me this way for years. And now, I decided, enough. That realization, painful as it was, gave me clarity. I had the power to reclaim my life, to set boundaries, and to define my own value. I wasn't going to be invisible anymore. I wasn't going to be just a provider. The next step, I knew, would be hard. It wasn't just about money or dinner. It was about confronting the reality of my marriage and figuring out if it could ever be more than a one-sided arrangement. I didn't know how Linda would respond, but I knew I had to take that step. Monday morning, I called a family law attorney. His name was Robert Shunn, and he came highly recommended. He agreed to see me Wednesday after work. I left early and drove downtown, feeling a mix of nervousness and relief. Robert was straightforward. No sugarcoating. I explained the situation, the financial imbalance, the lack of attention and care, and the fact that Ryan and Sophie were not biologically mine. The good news hit me like a wave. Because the house was in my name, my parents had helped with the down payment, and Linda's income was separate. My financial exposure was limited. I could leave without being destroyed financially. I could have a clean separation, and it was actually in my favor. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of hope. That Saturday, I decided to give Linda one last honest conversation. No shouting, no arguing, just clarity. We sent Ryan and Sophie to her mom's and sat at the kitchen table. I laid out everything. The loneliness of coming home to indifference, the constant financial pressure, and being invisible unless there was a bill to pay. I explained the impact of that Thursday night. You're an adult. Cook for yourself. And what it symbolized. Linda listened, but her face hardened. She called me overly sensitive, said she had a lot on her plate, and tried to make the cooking incident seem ridiculous. I told her I wasn't upset about the dinner itself. I was upset about the lack of care, the missing partnership. Then I asked the question that had been haunting me. What am I to you, Linda? Besides the money? She hesitated. The pause stretched for what felt like minutes. Finally, she said, You're a good provider. Those words cut deeper than any argument. She didn't see me as a husband, a partner, or even a father figure to the kids. I was just someone who kept the machine running. The mortgage paid, the bills covered. I pulled out the divorce papers and set them on the table. Her face went pale. I told her I was filing for divorce because I couldn't be married to someone who only saw me as a bank account. She cried, pleaded for a chance, said she could change. I reminded her I had given her 3 years of chances. If I have to force you to love me, then it's not real, I said. She kept crying, but I had heard enough empty promises. The next weeks were tense. I moved to the spare bedroom. Linda oscillated between acting perfect and being furious. The kids sensed the tension. One night, Ryan asked if I was moving out. I explained to him and Sophie that Linda and I had grown-up problems and needed to live separately. I assured them it wasn't their fault and promised I would still spend time with them. 2 months later, the divorce was finalized. It was quick, clean, and straightforward. No fighting, no unnecessary complications. The house remained mine. Linda moved out with the kids. She tried one last time the day before leaving, dressing up, talking about reservations at the restaurant where we had our first date. I looked at her and felt only exhaustion. What we had ended long ago, I was only now accepting it. Once she left, the house was quiet for the first time in years. I felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. The weight I had carried, the invisible labor, the endless giving, the emotional neglect, was finally gone. I could breathe. Life started to settle into a new rhythm. I got promoted to senior technician, which came with regular hours instead of the unpredictable, punishing shifts. I started going to the gym, reconnecting with old friends, and rediscovering hobbies I had neglected for years. The first weekend Ryan and Sophie came over. It felt genuine and easy. We played games, cooked simple meals together, and laughed without the tension that used to hang over every interaction. It wasn't perfect. No major life change ever is. But it was healthy. I had established boundaries and everyone respected them. Most importantly, I respected myself. I realized that being taken for granted had not been inevitable. I had given my all, yes, but I also had the right to be valued in return. Last week, my friend Ethan asked if I was ready to date again. I told him maybe. But this time, I knew what I would never accept. The moment someone tells you to take care of yourself, believe them. They've already stopped caring about you. I had spent 3 years hoping Linda would notice me, would care, would reciprocate. She never did because she never wanted to. She wanted a provider, nothing more. Next time, I'll look for someone who wants to be a partner. Someone who shows up because they want to, not because they have to. And if that reciprocity doesn't exist, I won't waste years hoping it will magically appear. I'll walk away early while I still have enough of myself left to build a life that truly includes me. That's the lesson I learned the hard way. But at least I learned it. Life is too short to be invisible in your own home. Too short to be a financial sponsor for someone else's comfort while sacrificing your own happiness and dignity. Now, I cook for myself, yes, but I do it on my terms, with joy, with freedom, and with the knowledge that I am my own priority. And for the first time in years, that feels like the kind of adult life I always wanted. Top Reddit comments say things like, "Wow, I didn't see that twist coming." She played the long game perfectly. He got what he deserved. I felt that ending deep. One of the best stories I've heard here. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and share. See you in the next one.